First of all, thanks Jan and the team at Candidately. It's been a great show so far. Got to check out Andre's session and my friends Keith and LJ and Hamish right before this. So it's been great so far. And I'm joined by my friend Heather Jennings here. And today, for the purposes of this section, we're going to be talking about how staffing and recruiting agencies can increase productivity and accelerate the connected recruiting lifecycle using AI. I'll talk more about that, what that means in just a moment. But before we get started, Heather, why don't you give a quick introduction to yourself, your background, and tell a little bit about what GQR does.
Sure. Was that a little firework effect?
I don't know what happened there, but I liked it. Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'll take it. So my name is Heather Jennings. I've been with GQR Global Markets for the past 3.5 years. I've worked in staffing for almost 19. I've held various roles in recruitment, operations, marketing, production training, account management, sales. I'm truly honored to have been recognized in the 2023 Global Power 150 Women in Staffing by SIA as well, alongside super accomplished industry leaders. And I work in revenue operations as the global head of revenue technology for GQR. We specialize in the life sciences, healthcare, technology and trading, workday, and professional services markets.
Awesome. And for those who don't know me, Matt Dichter, VP of Sales at Staffing Engine. I've been leading the sales org here at Staffing Engine the past 3 years. Prior to that, I've spent about 9 years at Bullhorn. So while I never sat on the staffing side, have over a decade in helping staffing agencies with staffing and recruiting technology. And it's been great getting to know Heather and the GQR team over the past couple of years. And just as house cleaning, I already see a lot of engagement in the chat. That's awesome. We will have a couple of poll questions that we'll ask you to engage with. If you do have questions, a lot of those tend to get lost in the chat. So please do use the Q&A. We'll reserve some time for the end of this to hopefully hit on any questions that come up. As a precursor to this, we were asked to talk about AI's impact on the connected recruiting lifecycle. And I'm sure a lot of the folks who are on this, especially if you're a Bullhorn customer or were on the early sessions, are familiar with the idea of the connected recruiting lifecycle. It all starts with agencies building a very strong brand to help attract talent, as well as give a very tailored applicant experience. From there, recruiting agencies use engagement tools and an omni-channel approach to engage talent in their database. That's changed a lot over the last decade. When I came into the staffing industry, it was a whole lot of phone and email. Those are still very important channels, but with millennials and Gen Zers entering the workforce, we've seen an explosion in the usage of things like text messaging, AI chatbots, which we'll talk about. So it's really become important for agencies to adopt an omni-channel approach to the engagement. From there, delivering, and Andre talked a lot about this morning, but delivering a highly personalized onboarding experience. GQR deals a lot with compliance on the healthcare side and getting folks ready for their first day of work. And then finally, after you've put someone on assignment, especially in contract recruiting and temp staffing, continuously building the relationship with folks on assignment in your database is very critical. For the purpose of today, we're going to be talking about how AI has an impact on all of those stages of the life cycle. And we're going to talk about some very targeted use cases that Heather and the team at GQR in particular have started to use as far as adopting AI within their recruiting agency. Before we get into the use cases, though, I wanted to share some interesting data from SIA that came out toward the end of last year. Heather and I were talking about this. There's definitely some interesting stats that jump out here. Heather, do you want to kind of quickly walk through what we're looking at here?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, right? Because what you have here is so this is right from SIA, industry experts that are basically predicting over the next 3 years where AI is going to disrupt the industry, and they're defining that as basically 25% or more of current activities would be replaced by AI. So you can see in like the candidate screening, skills assessment, matching, selection on the recruitment side, 91% of industry experts, foresee that disruption in the next 3 years. I kind of wonder who are the 9% that don't think, just no wait. I think, and it's exciting. We're going to talk a lot about, today.
Their database might still be on pen and paper, not in a CRM.
I mean, you know what? That's actually a really good point, right? Because if you don't have, kind of the data and kind of a plan for that, then right, AI is probably not going to benefit you. But I think what I find most surprising about this chart here is that that 27% in the sales and business development, because I can't help but think there was that top sales trends 2024 report that Matt, you actually shared it with me.
Yep.
It was released from Salesforce, and it actually really contradicts the predictions listed here, because that article said that for sales, 28% of reps actually that's all that they're spending on selling, meaning that 72% of the time is on admin and other tasks. So when we think about the best strategy for where to use generative AI, you want to start with those manual, time-consuming, repetitive tasks, so sales reps can be focused on selling. So that to me indicates higher opportunity for AI disruption than perhaps the industry experts may have predicted on this report.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about sales use cases in a bit. That number to me was also the most surprising. And for the reason that you just shared, like earlier in another session, Bullhorn shared that only 35% of a recruiter's day is spent on recruitment and the rest are on administrative or other tasks. Sales, we saw the number 28% that John Barrows shared in a Salesforce article. That to me seems to say that sales is about to get disrupted at the same level that staffing and recruiting are, especially when you look at, Staffing Hub put out an article at the halfway point of last year, and the data showed that the thing that recruiting agencies are struggling with the most right now, especially in professional recruiting, is getting job orders. And so I think you're about to see a lot of solutions that come out that are highly focused on applying AI to the sales and business development processes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing and go into conversational mode for a second. And we're going to talk about a few different use cases that GQR in particular are starting to leverage from an AI standpoint. And let's start with generative AI. It's funny because ChatGPT, I think, launched at the very end of 2022. So 2 years ago, none of us were really using generative AI. And over the last 12 months, it's just exploded, whether it's ChatGPT or Bard or any of the Gen AI tools that are out there. Has GQR started to leverage it? Can you talk about how you guys look at it from a business impact standpoint? Give us some color there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely the capabilities of both ChatGPT, Google Bard, they are exciting. While I think ChatGPT has the overall edge, I will say Google Bard is my preferred tool for quickly summarizing YouTube videos, which is completely free. You just enable, your YouTube extension, and so Matt, I actually recently used it to summarize the most recent YouTube video you posted. Okay. And it was like about an hour long. And it's been a busy week, so I haven't had, didn't have the time, but I just copy and pasted the YouTube link, and I asked AI to, condense the insights on how AI is transforming the staffing industry into 5 bullet points, delivers it in seconds. And then the ability to ask those follow-up questions. And, interact conversationally is just remarkable, right? I inquired about specific examples that you used in the video to illustrate AI's impact in sales and recruiting productivity, and voila, provided, all those details. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was going to say, and I dropped a poll question. If you move over to the poll side, asking whether or not your staffing and recruiting agency has started leveraging Gen AI to automate repetitive tasks in their day. And there's a couple of different options there. One of the things that we're hearing, and Heather, you talked about this, is agencies have a mix right now of individual sales and recruiters who are using it on their own terms. Some agencies have started implementing it as far as best practices and are using it operationally. Some are doing both, and
Sure.
some aren't using it at all. Can you give some more color there? And where does GQR fall into that?
Yeah, no, that's I'm glad you brought that up, Matt, because I think about, absolutely, at GQR, we're using it on the individual level. Many are finding it valuable to enhance, email responses, rewriting content, job descriptions, meeting agendas, conducting research on specific topics. Our marketing department loves the, assisting, creating blogs, social media posts. I will tell you, my president, he uses it for personalized images in company-wide emails, recognizing sales performance, which I will say some of those images, they turn out completely botched, like cartoon-like depictions of our team celebrating, achievements. So I say that adds, some fun and humor and, engagement to our culture. But, I think while you look at like 2023 was kind of more that year of experimentation, maybe that individual use, our focus on 2024 is on that enterprise level implementation to maximize efficiency. So it'll be interesting to see how this poll turns out here. I'm anticipating probably a higher percentage of individual use, and I just maybe like quick note on that too, while everybody's putting their feedback in. I would encourage anyone who's listening in from maybe HR and legal departments to prioritize creating responsible AI policies. Just reflecting on past experiences, seeing how some companies might have been reactive, right, in creating social media policies back in the early 2000s, for example. And that proactive planning is just critical to help prevent an issue from it happening in the first place. So definitely, consider establishing clear guidelines, conducting thorough trainings to align with, likely the high percentage of individuals using AI for business purposes. So, that well-defined process, it's going to contribute not only to ethical AI practices, but help mitigate potential legal concerns as well.
Yeah, not a huge sample size, but we've got about 25, 30 votes in, I think, and it looks like it's all over the map. Some aren't, the 22% aren't using it at all. A bunch have folks that are using it on their own but haven't standardized it. So that's expected. And when you see some of the results from earlier sessions today, it's really at the beginning stages right now. And I think staffing agencies are really trying to wrap their arms around how to tackle it. And privacy is a concern. What are some of the things from a risk standpoint that you guys consider?
Yeah, I think that kind of going back to right, like the privacy concern, right, and the individual use. You have things like, copy paste, but then you could be pasting information accidentally, right? So again, our 2024 focus is really how do we go ahead and operationalize? How do we embed this within our organization? And happy to dive into that a little bit more. I think that'll provide some color on how that mitigates risk probably as we go through the different use cases.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've started partnering on is our AI assistant. And for those who aren't aware of what that is, Staffing Engine basically built a solution that helps, from a directive standpoint, tell Bullhorn end users what they should be doing next in their day. But then puts a lot of power behind that. leverage a direct integration with OpenAI so that they can, knock out repetitive tasks that, think about a candidate submittal. They used to have to spend, upwards of 15, 20 minutes, maybe more if they were a junior recruiter, building those candidate presentations. Now you can point AI at a job record and a candidate record and instantly create a customized candidate write-up in a matter of seconds. Now we know that Chat GPT and generative AI aren't perfect yet, so you still need to spend some time tweaking them. But we found that there's incremental time savings, and there's going to be a whole lot of tasks like that that you can replicate and remove from the recruiter's day.
Yeah, we love the AI assistant. And I mean, really exciting also that we have two products that we're really actively testing and expecting to release enterprise-wide by the end of the month. And, one is that recruiter-facing AI assistant that, you gave the example of the submittal write-ups, but I mean, it seamlessly integrates with Bullhorn as well. So it provides that really strong support for our consultants throughout the entire recruitment process. So, for example, creating the perfect Boolean string searches to pull the most ideal candidates for roles that you're working on. And, it's interesting because the feedback is that, senior recruiters, they really appreciate the time saved. And then our newer recruiters, they're benefiting from the AI's assistance in, kind of navigating those market nuances and Boolean strategies, right? So, and then so it's not only accelerating candidate sourcing, but then it's also doing things like generating one-pagers for location pitches, which I mean, it just condenses hours of research into seconds. And then, again, you mentioned the submittal, write-up, which is, super helpful. And I love how, it really creates unbiased write-ups too by comparing the resume against the internal job description and the objective approach where, we train the A model to remove all gender pronouns, for example, and just help, eliminate bias. And then the second product is the candidate-facing AI assistant. So embedded in our mobile app that we're building and dedicated to guiding candidates through the document collection process for submissions and onboarding. And we've already have existing functionality built in where candidates receive those real-time push notifications for newly available positions that align with their preferences. So we thought, hey, this is an ideal environment for candidates to receive additional support from AI, address frequently asked questions, help out during non-business hours, and even submit tickets. I love this, to integrate with our current operations workflow from a customer service standpoint, so we can monitor, like speed, maintain our customer SLAs is all integrated within.
Yeah, and you just hit on a bunch that, when you think about applying Gen AI specifically in the lens of the connected recruiting lifecycle, you've got Attract, right? You can use generative AI to build job descriptions, LinkedIn social posts, that sort of thing. We talked about Engage, and you mentioned onboarding, and you can use it to craft emails that will then be used in redeployment campaigns. So really, generative AI is powerful throughout the entire life cycle. And I think as we start to see greater adoption of it across staffing and recruiting agencies, it's going to level the playing field. It's going to make your C players B players, yep, your B players A players, and your A players who are embracing technology should in theory be more productive than they've ever been before. So it's super exciting.
I love that you said the leveling the playing field, because it reminds me of, in staffing, I've been part of teams where we've taken like our top billers, for example, and provided them with a recruiting assistant, to help support, obviously, managing large books of business and able to, to continue to grow. But when you think about, again, leveling the playing field, well, it's equal access to like brand new recruiters. They can, help get, ramped up quicker, and and then it's operating, quite frankly, at a significantly increased pace and accuracy, and not needing to train like an actual recruiting assistant that you hire on how to execute the task. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah, and the last point I'll hit on before we move on to another use case, when you going back to that first poll question, or the first data point around that only 26% see it disrupting the sales side of things, I would tell you that first of all, Butler Street has put out some great webinars around staffing agencies being able to utilize it on the sales side. And internally at Staffing Engine, we've started to do that too. So like when we hire new hires from outside the staffing and recruiting industry, and we're trying to train them up on staffing industry knowledge, GPT and BART are great resources to put in a title, their industry, ask what sort of things are their biggest business priorities or biggest challenges, and really soak up information. You can also do really cool things like schedule role plays and actually role play within generative AI. A lot of people just think it's content creation, but it's a whole lot more. That way you don't have to wait till you're face to face with someone to have heard a question for the first time. It's really good at helping with role playing. I think there's just going to be so many sales use cases. We were on a customer roundtable and everyone was saying our biggest pain point right now is getting job orders, and how can you help us there? So
sure. Yeah, no, I mean, Pat, I agree with you. There's so much opportunity on the sales and business development side, and I'm watching, honestly, a lot of developments with AI tools. Actually, I think what they've done at Sybil AI is very interesting. Have you heard of that one?
yeah, you told me that's the disc matching, right?
No, that's another one. Watching a lot of tools. No, so Civil AI. So their co-founder was formerly a Silicon Valley professor, I believe, at Stanford, and he faced the many challenges of teaching over Zoom right when the pandemic hit, and to engage or enhance, I guess, the student engagement. They developed this custom solution using machine learning to not only analyze your verbal cues, your tone, but also nonverbal and body language. And I
Yep,
think
I
about,
remember this now. Yep.
right, like from a sales standpoint, gaining insights to that holistically, within client interactions, I mean, it's invaluable, right? And then having AI seamlessly, document and summarize all that information into your CRM, internal messaging platforms to, eliminate having to manually type everything out, to update your boss and other team members. Like, how much time is wasted in that even, right? It's just like, tell me what happened. But I think the biggest opportunity is, it creates recommended follow-ups and recognizes the biggest client pain points through that analysis to increase then the likelihood of winning the account. And, you think about, I don't know, like the big four consulting firms, like, 5 years ago, they used to come in and, we're going to do an analysis, across your sales organization, and, we're going to interview them, some of your customers, we're going to articulate the pain points of the industry, what's working, why it's working, what's not working, what we think, it needs to change. And like, Matt, that would have been a $500,000 contract
Yep.
to one of the big four. And now what, $89 a month, subscription. So it's like that leveling the playing field also
Right.
at, kind of like what you're saying, at the company level, regardless of your size. And, traditionally it's like these type of in-depth analysis, like they were reserved, right, for large companies that had tons of resources, but now,
Greater
smaller
access.
companies, yeah, like you could, take advantage, and I mean, large companies are benefiting too because they have an extra abundance of data to translate into, really powerful insights. But again, yeah, not, streamlining sales processes, but then, enhancing marketing strategies. I think also then what that's going to do is more accuracy for forecasting in sales,
Yes.
right? Again, because you're getting all the data, and and then I could go on and on, but
Yeah. No, I mean, reporting was up there on the SIA list, and I agree with you. Forecasting and reporting
yeah.
will, as you can apply AI at greater amounts of data, it will become better at detecting what comes next.
Hmm.
Moving on from Gen AI for a moment, early on in our partnership, you brought us a challenge that we weren't planning on solving, but it's a great testimonial to how you can apply AI at challenges that you might not have thought it could do to solve. And GQR on the healthcare side in particular was struggling around a manual process around top of funnel lead distribution.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you came to us with, what the process looked like, and then how we started to solve it? And I'm going to pull up some data points while you do that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, our leads were centralized in a shared mailbox. Okay, so that required manual distribution on our part. So a process with massive inefficiency and scalability issues. So additionally, it was time consuming. It limited effective lead prioritization too, which really has that negative impact on sales productivity and revenue growth. So and of course, we faced the speed to market challenges, which really put us at a competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, and just some color for on the healthcare side of things, companies like GQR typically refer to their candidates or providers as leads, but really this is a challenge on both the sales lead as well as the
Mhm.
applicant candidate lead.
Oh yeah.
And we've seen that process that Heather just described almost universal in like travel nursing and healthcare, but we're also starting to see it as being a manual process in other verticals as well. And the idea is that historically, the ability to contact and reach out to applicants in a timely fashion has been way too slow, in part because it's a highly manual process of, okay, this person applied, let's look at their resume, figure out what they applied for, and then get them over to the right individual or team of individuals at the staffing agency. So what we worked on with Heather was basically applying AI to that whole experience where in the inbox, we're using AI to strip out information like location, skills, specialty, category, do a lookup in the ATS, and then route those leads to the correct channels of individuals in Microsoft Teams. And we found that Microsoft Teams, which has just exploded in usage across the agencies that we talk to, is a far better place to collaborate and follow up with people than one at a time over email. The other big thing that we've seen is sending it to channels of recruiters rather than just one individual recruiter also greatly impacts lead response time. Can you share a little bit about what you've seen there, Heather?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do agree with you, Matt, that yeah, and obviously we've implemented both on the candidate and the client side in terms of lead distribution. But I mean I've read reports on the sales side that show that if you don't respond back to a request from a sales prospect to book a meeting within 5 minutes of that request coming in, I've heard your chances of having that meeting decline by as much as 80%. And people just tend to associate or directly correlate credibility and trust with how fast you're able to to respond. But to your point, it's all embedded within Teams because that's the platform we use for our internal messaging. So it's super convenient for us. I had zero interest in going with a solution that required another login or another portal technology. Like it had to be built in to our current workflow. And so this way, when the notifications go off, the consultant can claim and contact the lead for immediate follow up.
Yeah, and there was actually some more data for you all. And by the way, there's a poll question up if you guys want to take a look. And this one's a little bit more straightforward. For your recruitment agency, is the assignment and distribution of either candidate or client leads a manual process today? I would be interested in seeing the results there if you want to go in and vote on the poll. Staffing Hub put out some really interesting data last year. This supplements something I've known for a long time on the sales side of things. But the fastest growing US staffing agencies respond, over half of them respond to applicants and client leads in under 1 hour. Um, by and large, most of the agencies that we talk to, they're not getting back to their applicants for several hours, sometimes over 24 hours. Heather, you shared that Vivian had some data around like if you can get your response time during business hours down below 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I think it quadruples the likelihood of placement. Is that right?
I think they said within 6 minutes it doubles your chances, but
Gotcha.
yeah,
And,
I've heard a couple different reports.
and some agencies, especially larger ones, don't have the manpower to keep up with the lead flow or the client flow. It's a lot different if you're temp staffing or healthcare staffing than it is professional, where they don't get quite as many inbound. But even then, like if you have a client fill out a form on your website, you need to be getting back to those people really quickly. Like it's all about what Andre was saying in the first session this morning around delivering experiences to your customers and your talent. Like no one, the days of waiting around and waiting for someone to get back to you are long gone. Like AI and automation technology is going to be far better at helping recruiters and humans get in touch with those leads faster. Heather, how have you seen the lead distribution piece impact? I mean, I know you guys use several lead sources, but what does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really increased the placements and conversions from the lead sources that we have plugged into it. I mean, that includes our website, our mobile app, actually increased 4x. It was I mean, significantly. Job boards, even our internal leads that will be distributed from other departments. Sense also, honestly, we've really increased that as well, regenerating existing candidates in our database and having it pop out to the lead distribution. That was actually our second highest source for revenue just last month even. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, awesome. It's been great partnering with your team on that. Last business case and use case before we move into just general Q&A and that sort of thing. AI chatbots, have been around for a while now, and for a lot of people, they're kind of like a four-letter word because we've all had those frustrating bot experiences, especially going back a few years where if you can't get an answer to your question, you kind of get in this loop. There's not really, support beyond it. And over the last couple of years, I think with advances in AI and AI technology and the concept of building out knowledge models, they've gotten a lot stronger and a lot better at attracting folks, whether they're first coming to your website or they're downloading a mobile app or you're embedding them in outbound automation. What has GQR seen there, and can you testify to the fact that they've gotten better over time? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. It's like I don't even want to use the word chatbot because I think the connotation, what I think of is just way more archaic than the true capabilities of today. I really prefer AI assistant or co-pilot because you can interact now in ways that surpass, the traditional expectations of the past, right? So I'd actually compare the capabilities now similar to a knowledge worker who creates value as AI can look at something, read, analyze, process, and then think critically to produce something of value.
Yeah, and like if you think about them as a tool to deflect FAQs and commonly asked questions, like that impacts every part of that recruitment life cycle. Whether they're first coming in and wanting to know what it's like to work with GQR, to down the line if they have questions around, maybe they're already employed and they want to find their W-2s or want help at, entering timesheets and that sort of thing. So it's not. I think in the past, chatbots were looked at as this really top of funnel candidate qualification, but GQR is exploring, I think, even putting it in your mobile app for not only top of funnel, but down when they're already a worker who might be on assignment with you, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Um, beyond Staffing Engine, and I think you mentioned Sense. what are some of the other tools that you're looking at, especially ones that are implementing AI technology?
Sure. So yeah, and actually, Sense just released some new functionality where it has the ability to read and respond to messages using AI. So we haven't gotten a chance to dig into that one yet, but I'm definitely interested in seeing that more and how we may be able to incorporate that into our workflows. I think a lot of the or I know a lot of kind of our job boards and different vendors that we work with are incorporating kind of those co-pilot models. You see what LinkedIn is doing, and Vivian, which is a healthcare specific board. Bullhorn, has even been
They've all got co-pilots.
right, exactly. But I mean, I kind of go back to what can you build in-house internally, and because you do kind of risk dependencies too, right? If the way I'm using it is kind of through a third party.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've heard a lot of agencies that we're connected with ask is, how can we ensure end user adoption on all these technology investments that we're making, especially with AI? Like, you think about Chat GPT and Bard, they're literally out there for anyone to use, yet the majority, especially in our industry, I don't think have quite started to leverage them to their full extent quite yet. How can you help encourage usage of tools while also letting them know that they need to use it in a safe and effective manner?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so for me, I always say start by identifying your innovation champions in collaboration with leaders, because like those early adopters, they tend to be motivated to engage in innovation projects, test out new technologies. I always loved beginning with small pilot groups, and then as the feedback becomes positive, kind of roll out, sometimes even, adding a couple more people to that pilot, and then the request comes in again, and it's okay, now we do, to the entire team. And yeah, and I think, sharing success stories too. I was a sales and recruitment leader for many years. I love the leaderboards. I love,
Yeah.
uh, putting things out, just thinking about like lead distribution, for example. I did in a company meeting, did a recruiter spotlight who, he quadrupled his book of business over like 3 to 4 months, with 70% of that growth being from the AI lead distribution. So the more that you have that visible, I think it just, kind of.
Those end user spotlights or success stories are so critical to getting early buy-in, because if recruiters see one or two individuals blowing out their number because they're embracing the tool, they're usually quick to follow. So that first, those first successes post implementation, we see as being absolutely critical. I also think that, to a point you made, it's also really important for us leaders to be cutting edge and using these tools, because I've seen it where leaders or managers tell their team to use something but don't use it themselves, and it's kind of like a contradictory point. And I always like, it's a little different because I had sales up at a startup, so I still get involved in a lot of our deals and opportunities. But like, I try to be a trailblazer as far as like giving examples of what to do and what not to do, and different prompts and things like that you can use. And I think that if leaders want to get buy-in from their individual contributors, they have to be willing to get in there and learn the technology themselves.
Mhm.
One thing we didn't hit on is the importance of clean data when implementing any sort of automation or AI strategy. And we're thinking back to like the assistant example we gave earlier, where you compare a job record and a candidate record, but no data that exists on the record, it ain't going to generate anything. What are some of the things that you all are doing internally to ensure that you have data integrity and good data hygiene?
Sure. So we're fortunate to have, one of the most incredible automation experts on the RevOps team, and I'd argue probably one of the most talented bullhorn administrators and system integration experts, that there is. My bias maybe, but what I would say, I don't know. I think about like the Steve Jobs quote. He said, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can, tell us what to do. And I have the opportunity to work collaboratively every day with these people in my company to create that best possible structure, automations, field mappings, processes to ensure clean data, which is just such an important part of having success in AI.
Awesome. I know that this is wrapping up and the next session start in 5. I guess I will wrap with one more question. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. If you have them, feel free to drop them there. What are the risks that an agency runs by waiting too long to implement AI and similar types of technologies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot that generative AI is like the launch of the internet, but I'd caution against that because the early stages of the internet, I mean, companies probably had, call it 10 years, right, from kind of the early 90s to get presence on the web. And with Gen AI, companies will not have that 10-year luxury gap.
No.
Implementation, like that mindset would be fatal, honestly, to an organization. And, the other thing, like, I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but I think that late adopters may find it challenging also to attract top talent or satisfy client demands without advanced technology solutions. So that may be another reason, in addition to, I mean, you don't want to
Yeah,
fall.
there's competition not only with other agency competitors, but also even within your own team. If you've got a recruiter or sales rep who's, automating 50% of their manual tasks with AI, and someone else who's not automating at all, they might be the best recruiter in the world when they get someone on the phone, but they're not getting that same level of phone time or video time that someone else is. And that runs a risk to your internal population as well.
Sure. Yeah. And loss of market share, competitive disadvantage. That is the reality.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna say thanks to everyone for coming in, engaging with the polls. I don't think we had any questions out there, but a lot of good interaction in the chat, and hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks, Heather.
Great. Thank you.